Dear students, good evening. Welcome to Excellence IAS. Let us do the editorial analysis for today, that is 21st November 2022. The first article, COP27 forms Loss and Damage Fund. Let us try to understand what is the concept of loss and damage. Understand, many of the vulnerable islands are there, small island countries. Any level of sea rise, it is going to invariably damage their property, livelihood, there might be biodiversity loss. This all put together, we call it as loss and damage. This loss and damage is not being dealt by any COP till now. Adaptation and mitigation, these are the two concepts which are discussed till date. In this case, for mitigation and adaptation, we have created $100 billion fund per year from the developed countries towards the developing countries from 2020 onwards. Developed countries are still not implementing this. In COP27, they tried to find answers to this $100 billion per year fund. That's why it is also called as an implementation COP. There is no significant progress on that particular front, but there is a progress on loss and damage. So in principle, they have agreed to create certain fund for these countries which are vulnerable to climate change. This is expected to be close to $500 billion. Now, how this has to be paid? Who has to contribute that? For all these modalities to develop, a transition committee is being appointed. Obviously, this is a work in progress. The change expected to be incremental, as like $100 billion fund per year. How it is still not conclusive, I am also pessimistic and skeptical about this loss and damage fund. Incremental win. Incremental win. So I have discussed this loss and damage fund again. In this case, we have to see mitigation, adaptation, loss and damage. What is the difference between these two? Mitigation means you decrease the greenhouse gases and stop the changes happening due to climate change. Next is adaptation. It means you try to adjust yourself to the climate change consequences. It means you modify your practices. Let's take climate resilient seeds you develop. The climate resilient agriculture we call that as. That is nothing but adaptation. Loss and damage means the climate change which you cannot avoid the losses which you are supposed to incur, the damages which you are supposed to incur. No mitigation and adaptation are not possible. So that is what we call it as loss and damage. So any kind of change that is going to come is just incremental. Now climate change is real, at least that is not being debated today. When Trump was there, this climate change is also debated. India expects to become carbon neutral by 2070. Developed countries want to push it to 2050. India said it has to balance its developmental needs, sustainable developmental goals. For that, it has to focus on or it has to depend on fossil fuels. So it is going to cut down its fossil fuels. Throwing away the fossil fuels all at a single go may not be possible immediately. So the European Union especially also want India, UAE, all these countries to contribute for this loss and damage fund. In the next year COP at Abu Dhabi, I think in UAE, we will see how it is going to come for action. Next, on the edge. You know that recently, from Russia, stated to be from Russia, a missile has entered into Poland. Poland is a country in NATO. Then, Ukraine President Zelensky stated that it's attack of Russia on NATO, an irresponsible statement from Zelensky. Later, it was proven that it is an anti-missile which was fired by Ukraine, accidentally entered onto Poland. In these circumstances, any kind of escalation can slip the entire war and it can lead to Russia-NATO fight. So that's why de-escalation is the need of the hour. Russia and Ukraine has to start the dialogue. That is what this article is emphasizing. Charting the economic journey ahead. This is an article by Rangarajan. Now, India wants to become a developed country. What does that mean? The average per capita of every person in this country has to cross $13,000 per year. If we have to achieve this, 7% growth has to be achieved from now onwards till 100th year of our independence. Then only we can become a developed country. In these circumstances, let us trace India's developmental journey. Pre-independent India, if you observe, the India's growth is dismal. You know, India was exploited by the colonial governments in those days. In this case, the annual growth rate was 0.89%, and then population growth was 0.83%. The per capita income growth was 0.06%. It means there is no real improvement in the standards of living of the people. After independence, you know, the private sector is not strong in India. India has taken a socialistic path. Remember carefully, the socialism was not luxury for India. It was the only choice that was available to India at that point of time, because the private sector is very nascent. International funding is not seen anywhere. In this context, to develop education, health, to improve standards of living, to fight the disease and poverty, then we took the socialistic path. In this, we have closed our economy, which is called closed economy. In this case, we want to become self-sufficient. We want to produce our own capital goods, and public sector is at the commanding heights of the economy. State is dominant in every function. It was Nehru's India. Nehru's India, where public sector is at its peaks. But by 1970s, when Indira Gandhi became Prime Minister, the growth in the country was slowing down. Every 5-year plan is not reaching to the projected or aspired growths. A shift is necessary, but Indira Gandhi was not ready for any such shift. This phase we also called Hindu growth rate, which is very slow. In this case, what was the average growth rate in the till 1970s? It is 3.6%, but population growth is 2.2%, and per capita growth rate is 1.4% in this particular arena. The next 1980s, if you observe, that is Rajiv Gandhi era. Introduction of technology, opening up of economy, connecting economy to the world, the nascent stages have started. So that's why a higher growth has come in 1980s, that is around 5.6%. But it has come at a very huge cost. The current account deficit was widening, and the physical crisis was there with the government. India was borrowing left, right and center. So that's why India went into an economic crisis by 1990s. That's where the P.V. Narasimha Rao Manmohan Singh duo comes into the picture. That is also called as LPG era. In 1991, end of license Raj, privatization has started, open economy routes are being created. From 1990s onwards, if you see, the growth has taken a steep path. That is 6.2% is the growth in that particular decade. So, P.V. Narasimha Rao is the one who made a big change to economy, big change to foreign affairs, and also big change to the unity of this country. Any person who has to be remembered in this country as a Prime Minister after Nehru, the person who has contributed for this country is P.V. Narasimha Rao. And the next decade, it has led to 7.4. From 2013-14, if you see average, it is again coming down, 6.7. See carefully, this is the demographic dividend period. The young population in India is very high. In spite of having such an young population, we are seeing slowdown in growth that is unwarranted. The golden period of growth in Indian economy is during the Manmohan Singh era. There we have reached 8.8% growth. And 2007-2008 is remarkable because our investments in the country has reached, investment rate reached 39.1%. Today it is down almost by 10% and close to 28%. So, growth rate from 2012-13, especially 13-14, it started slowing down to 4.5% due to demonetization or lack of proper planning in the introduction of GST, COVID-19, whatever may be the reasons, the economy is not doing as expected. Unemployment rate is highest in India today. Now, if we want to become a developed country, the per capita of $13,000 have to be achieved. It needs a 7% growth per annum at minimum. What we have to do? Investment rate has to be raised. So, where these investments have to come from? Public and private sector. And in the private sector, when the investments can be provided? When there is demand. And second, when there is stability. Fiscal stability, price stability, political stability, all are necessary for private investment to be mobilized. And gross fixed capital formation, it has to reach to 33% from the existing 28%. Exports need to be strengthened, and India's manufacturing sector, which has capability to generate the employment, also need to be strengthened. And threat to federalism in agricultural education. Remember, education is there in which subject or in which list? That is concurrent list. But agriculture research and agriculture education, these are the subjects in the state list. For prelims, you need to remember this differentiation. So, today in Kerala, a university, agricultural university's VC was their appointment is put on hold by the High Court, saying that UGC regulations are not being followed. UGC is a central body. Why in the case of an agricultural university, where agricultural education is a matter of state subject, the central agency has to involve? Our central agency rules have to be followed. This is violative of federation. That's the argument of this article. Next is, first look at the new data protection bill. Remember, IT rules 2011, these were replaced and new draft data protection bill has come into existence. Today it is put for public review and comments. In this case, why it is essential to replace this IT Act? It is grossly inadequate to protect the personal data. In this case, government has already introduced a bill and withdrew the bill because of the opposition from the industry. What is the one big difference between the previous bill introduced and the new draft bill? That is sensitive personal data. Previous bill has a category called sensitive personal data. This category is being removed to make it friendly for the industry. So that is being removed in the new bill. So that is the bigger information which you need to collect. Anyhow, we are going to do this in detail. There we will talk each and every provision. Thank you very much. Have a great day.